welcome here to TalkFCB and welcome back to the channel, guys. And I'm sure the smiles are still on your faces. I'm sure the spring is still in your step, and that's the way that it should be here heading into the weekend, because we're going to be building up here to Barca's game away at Cadiz on Saturday, but there is full focus here on that all-important second leg against Paris Saint-Germain on Tuesday. We're going to be looking into today, and in a very detailed way, what sort of rotation should we see? What can we expect to see in this game? And also, who's going to be out there this Saturday for Barca wanting to prove a point? Who's going to be trying to find their way into that team on Tuesday? It is all on the way. The excitement, it is very much there. So let's do this. But I want to start first of all with the big super thanks shout out here. First of all to Michael, who's been watching the channel since 2015 from New Jersey. And another one here who's been here on the channel since 2017, since the remontada of all occasions. And a big shout out as well to Abdul, absolutely amazing. And finally to Neil as well, because we actually share a birthday and it will be our big day tomorrow, April the 13th on match day. That is absolutely perfect, and I want to wish Neil there a very, very happy birthday. But all eyes are on the game. Let's get away from the birthday for now. All eyes are on Barca versus Cadiz on Saturday, 9 PM local time. And what kind of game can we expect here? And what kind of approach will Xavi take looking ahead to that PSG game? Because first of all, let's familiarise ourselves again with the La Liga table right now. We have 8 games to go. We are still 8 points behind Real Madrid. So technically, guys, we're in the title race. You know, it's still alive. Mathematically, we could still do it with the Clásico to come. We could reduce that gap there to 5 points with a win, but even then, it's still a big lead for Madrid with very few games really to go. Not many challenges left for them this season, and realistically for me, La Liga looks like a long shot. We don't have realistic chances of winning the league right now, which is why you cannot deny right now that the Champions League, it is becoming, and it has been becoming, more and more important to Barca, because already when we made it through against Napoli, once we saw then that Champions League draw, already we were starting to prioritise this competition. We felt as though things were starting to open up for us. The possibility was there if we could get it right against PSG. And I think now, after the first leg, after the result that we managed to get away from home, we are halfway there, and surely now we are starting to dream. The dreams are starting to become realities, and that means all eyes are on the Champions League. It means realising here that we have the opportunity, we've got the chance to do something special, and something that we never imagined could happen this season, and we've got to be willing to do whatever it takes, and I mean whatever it takes, to make it happen. Because that is then when we get into the big question this weekend, all about rotation. Because on the one hand, you would say, well, we haven't played a huge amount of games over the past few weeks here at Barca. We've spoken about that regularly on the channel. It's not like we've had loads and loads of matches here. And of course, where possible, you still want to win this game. Even if we're not technically front runners in the title race, of course, you still want to keep momentum going. You want to make sure that you beat Cadiz and move on to PSG with full confidence. But having said all of that, I would still personally really like to see plenty of rotation on Saturday, because I think we played a really intense game. We came out of the blocks on Wednesday against PSG. We really left it all out there, full effort for every single player. And by the way, we're going to need all of that and more on Tuesday in the second leg. So we want every single player who's going to start that game to be physically perfect, absolutely perfect conditions. And that might mean that on Saturday, you bring them on, you can give a few of our key players there minutes in the game, you can keep them fresh, keep them involved. But personally, I wouldn't start too many of them. I think here we've got a good enough squad. We've got players from the outside who are trying to get in, waiting in the wings, wanting an opportunity. Let's use our squad in this game and let's protect our biggest players. Because I do think as well, one point that would certainly support rotation in this game is looking at PSG, looking at what they have to come before the second leg, and what that is nothing. They have pure rest, pure time on the training field there, in between the two legs, no league game for PSG. So they are going to be fully fresh, they are going to be fully ready, and I think that only adds here to the fact that we want to match that. We cannot afford to be caught off guard, we cannot afford to be labouring behind them in any way. We've got to be at it. We have to match them stride for stride. So who then needs to be rested in this Barca team? Because indeed, guys, from the get-go here, the decision has already been made when it comes to 3 players this weekend straight away, because Robert Lewandowski, João Cancelo and Inigo Martinez, they are all suspended against Cadiz. So those are 3 players that definitely will not be involved, and of course it also means that they will be fined, conveniently, to play against Real Madrid next weekend. But I think it's really important here, especially for Lewandowski and for Cancelo, that they do get some rest, because they played a lot of football this season. You think of Cancelo there on either side, often on the left, he's always up and down, isn't he? He's always giving it absolutely maximum effort, full energy, and again, looking at him in the second leg, he needs to be ready. It's going to be a big battle once again on that side. And for Lewandowski, at 35 years old, I think he was incredible in Paris. In terms of off the ball there, the work that he was putting in, he was our first line of press, he was really putting pressure on PSG, he was combining well in that press with Ilkay Gundogan, and I think he really did leave it all out there too. And again, ahead of Tuesday, we're going to need him. We're going to need him to be fresh, to be sharp, as he has been of late, and Lewandowski here getting a really, really nice weekend off. Then though, there is the matter of Ilkay Gundogan, because talking of suspensions, remember guys, he's just 1 yellow card away from missing a game himself there, because obviously he picked up a yellow there, his 4th of the season in La Liga against Las Palmas, for literally nothing. And if he played in this game, I guarantee you they'd find a way to book him, and then he would miss the game against Real Madrid. So I think here it's the perfect time for Gundogan to finally get some rest. He's barely rested this season. No other Barcelona player has played as many minutes as he has, and I think he's earned the rest. Take a weekend off, recharge the batteries, and we'll see you on Tuesday against PSG. But I think we've also got to talk about Ronald Araujo as well. He's one of the next players on my list, because Xavi usually doesn't really like to overplay Araujo. We know that he's somebody who struggled with muscle problems, and he's somebody who is so important to us. We saw that in the first leg, guys, because obviously we spoke a lot about Pau Cubarsí, and of course we had to do that. He was unbelievable in that first leg, especially for his age. But let's just say as well, Araujo was phenomenal. He was absolutely wonderful in that game. What a leader he is, and he's the kind of player you want in those games, isn't he? He's so strong. He loves a physical battle. He wants to be up against Mbappe. He wants to be up against Dembele, and that recovery tackle on Barcola, 20 minutes to go, 2-2 in the game. If he doesn't get there, we don't win that match. It's as simple as that. Araujo there gave us the opportunity to go and win that game. And by the way, he did it all. He did most of that game there with blood seeping from his sock. He is a warrior. He will be out there until you carry him away. But this Saturday, Ronald, please take some rest. Now, personally, guys, ahead of the weekend as well, I would also be very, very careful with the likes of Frenkie de Jong and also Pedri, though, who both returned at the perfect time in midweek against PSG, and they played at an incredible level, given that they were thrown back in to a game of that intensity. But I would probably here bring both of them off the bench in this one. Instead of starting them, instead of putting them through their paces again just a few days after the first leg, I think here, just slowly introduce them, get more minutes under their belt, and again, those are players that we will count on for the second leg, and I would not overdo it, given that they've only just come back from injury. And then there's somebody like Lamine Yamal, who it's safe to say had a bit of a tricky night in Paris. It was a huge game for him, of course, massive pressure, 16 years old, and playing in a Champions League quarterfinal. I mean, just playing alone is an unbelievable experience for him, but it's very much because of that age here that we want to be careful with Yamal, that we are very carefully managing his minutes. We're We're very keen here not to overwork him, and I think he's another player that Xavi will be looking at thinking, okay, we don't want to take any risk, we don't want to put too much of a burden on you, and I would not be surprised at all if Yamal got some rest this weekend. And then there's Raphinha, and this is the one for me that's actually been quite tricky to decide, because on the one hand, I think with Raphinha, as well as he played in that first leg, you want to keep that going. You want to play him again this weekend, you want him to be involved, maybe go and score again, and take all of that confidence into the second leg against PSG. But then there's two things that I would say about that. Number one, this will probably be a very different game. Cadiz here, I would expect them to sit very, very deep, very minimal space. Obviously, Raphinha, he's not really going to be able to make the kind of runs that was giving him such joy against PSG. The other thing as well that really does worry me a bit is that Raphinha is another player who has suffered with muscle problems. You know, we have seen him several times this season suffer an injury, suffer a problem, and I really don't want that, because he is the one player that you desperately want in the second leg. We need him to be the outlet for us against PSG. We need him to be waiting for that counter-attack. So really, I kind of want to wrap him in cotton wool. I kind of want to make sure that he's absolutely fine. Nobody touch Raphinha before that second leg. However, guys, there are two players, though, in this game that must start, that absolutely must be there, and those are Andreas Christensen and Sergi Roberto, because remember, they're suspended for the second leg against PSG, so we've got to call upon them now. We have to use them in this game. They can't play in midweek, so make the most of them against Cadiz. Christensen and Roberto there, and with those suspensions in mind, I think with Xavi still mulling over really what he might do in midfield against PSG, what he might do to replace Christensen, to replace Roberto defensively in our midfield. I do wonder here, is he going to get a look at Oriol Romeo in this game? Because obviously he's the only real defensive midfield player that's still available. Obviously we've got players like Frenkie de Jong, they're going to be there, but I mean an out-and-out defensive player, if you wanted to play that way in midfield, Romeo really is the only viable option. And the question is Xavi really going to have a look at him here and just see, is there anything that suggests that he could play against PSG? Is there any form in there? Can you get any kind of performance out of him? And I think he will start against Cadiz. I think Xavi will take a look at him, but I think, of course, he's still very much an outside chance to feature in the Champions League. But if we are looking at how Barca could shape up and the players that will be pushing to be involved on Saturday and hopefully trying to prove a point, what you've got here is a back line of Christensen. I would move him back into his natural centre-back area there for this one. Marcos Alonso will return in defence. He is now fit again. And Hector Fort, he will play in that defensive area as well, if it was up to me, because he has been very, very good whenever called upon. And the question then would be, would you guys rest Jules Koundé or Pau Kubasi from the start? If you only had to pick one, because we don't have many defenders at the club, so you can either play Koundé there at right back, which would then leave Christensen and Alonso as the centre backs, and then Fort switching over to the left side as he did against Atletico Madrid, or you could bring Fort over to his natural side, Christensen and Pau as the centre backs, and then Alonso shifting out to that left back area. So guys, if you had to pick one or the other, Koundé rested or Pau Kubasi, and I don't know if this could happen or whether Xavi has this in his mind at all, but say you did actually want to rest both of them, maybe Xavi really wants to go for it here with rotation, you could technically call upon Mikael Faye. He's waiting, he has been impressing, of course, on the international scene at Barca Athletic. He's waiting for his moment, and he can play at centre-back or even at left-back if required. So Faye there is waiting in the wings for his big chance at Barca. But I think if we move into midfield here, you've got Sergi Roberto, you have to play him there in midfield, you've got Oriol Romeo, and then of course Fermin Lopez. And I think he would have felt in some ways quite hard done by to be left out against PSG, given how well he played against Atletico Madrid, given how well he played as well against Napoli. So he's one of those players who's really going to be working hard just to remind Xavi of exactly what he's capable of. And then we move on to the front three, and for me this is exciting, because on the right hand side you've got Ferran Torres, somebody coming back from injury here, looking for some momentum, looking to rediscover that touch in front of goal. He was scoring goals, and he was scoring them regularly before he was out injured. Down the middle, Vitor Roque. Let's see this young man from the start. Let's see him there in that front line in his natural area. And then on the left, how about João Felix? He is another one of those players who'll be thinking, okay, I've got to prove myself. I've got to show Xavi that I should be involved against PSG, that I want to take this chance and really, really make the most of it. And you look at that team right there, guys. There's still quality there. I know that we've done a massive amount of rotation. occasion. If Xavi was to line up like this, we will have rested so many key players, but that is still a decent team on paper. You've still got quality there in that front line. And of course, defensively, you know, it's an uncertain backline, it's an unfamiliar backline, but against a team who are in the relegation zone, we can still win this game with this team, and we can still prepare ourselves absolutely perfectly for the big one on Tuesday. That is the priority, and we must get ready for it now. But of course, guys, what I need to know in the comments down below, do you agree with me? Do you actually believe here that Barca need to rotate, and need to rotate heavily ahead of the second leg against PSG on Tuesday? Let me know your thoughts there in the comments down below, because maybe you don't agree. Maybe you have a different kind of lineup. So whatever lineup you choose, let me know it down below right now. And of course, I will see you soon. We will be building up to the PSG game. There is lots to come, and there's plenty more excitement and fuel that we can add to that fire. I will catch you all soon. Thank you indeed for watching as always. But until next time, as always, Visca, El Barça.